Alright then guys, in the last few videos about controllers, we have touched on views a little bit, but it's way more complex than I've showed you up until this point. Like I've said, Laravel comes with a blade templating engine which lets us design a unique layout called blade. Two of the primary benefits of using blade are template inheritance and sections. Just like in PHP, most of the web applications will have the same layout across the web page. Think about the navigation, the footer, or the head. In addition to template inheritance, Blade comes with lots of shortcuts of common PHP control structures, instead of constantly adding the, let's say the opening PHP tag and the closing PHP tag, and inside of it to create an if statement, we could basically, let me get rid of it, say PHP, hit tab, which will create a PHP directive for us. We could also say if, go to the if block, hit tab, and we got an if statement directive. And the cool thing inside of the directives of Laravel itself is that we could add HTML elements inside of it. At the time I started recording this course, I was also working on a YouTube mini-series where I was creating a personal portfolio. If you click on the link resources on this specific video, you will see a GitHub repository link in the description. It will redirect you to my GitHub repository where I have a personal portfolio for beginners. So let's open it. I will also add the code inside the resources. By the time you're watching this video, there will be much more pages available. But at this moment, I just finished the homepage, and that's exactly what we need for now. What I want to do is to migrate this project in our current project. So let's click on code. Let's download it as a zip file. This might take a second. Before we migrate my HTML and CSS code, I want to clean up my code a little bit. So what I want to do is to get rid of my products controller because, we don't need it right now. So let's delete it. Let's move it to the trash. Let's get rid of our products in the view. So let's delete it. All right. And let's go to our web.php and let's change up the route. Let me zoom in a little bit. Let's change the route to / and let's change the controller to pages controller. Let's also get rid of the named route that we have because we don't need it, and let's put it on one line. Alright. Let's hop to our terminal to create our pages controller. Alright, in here, let's say PHP artisan make a controller for me called pages controller. Let's hit enter, and our controller has been created successfully. Let's hop back to Visual Studio Code. We can see our pages controller right here. Let's open it. And what I want to do with my pages controller is to create our basic pages. So let's create our first function called public function index. And let's just return a view with the name of index, which we will create right now. So inside our views directory, let's get rid of the home and welcome file. We don't need it. Alright, now inside our views directory, let's create a new file called index.blade.php. And what I want to do is to paste our project in here. Alright, so let's hop to the file that we just downloaded called Portfolio for Beginners. Let's open the index.html in Visual Studio Code. Alright, let's copy everything. And let's paste it right inside of the index.blade.php. If we save it right now and go to the browser, the output won't be good because the style sheet hasn't been linked. But don't worry about that for now. We actually forgot to do one more thing, so let's hop back to our web.php and let's change the use of products controller to pages controller. Otherwise it won't work. Alright, let's hop to the browser. Let's change the endpoint to /, so not to / products. And this works fine. Well, let's scroll through it because it does not look good, but it's alright, no worries. Whether it's the home page, the about page, or the contact page, all of our pages will have the same header and footer. So let me show that to you. So at the top of our page, we have our HTML tag and our entire head tag. We have our body, which will be different on every single page. And we also have our footer at the bottom. Let's see. It's right here, which will also be the same. So what do you prefer? Do you want to copy paste it every single time into every single page? Well, no, right? You only want to change the actual content inside the body. let's go to the web.php to create a new route. And on the line below, let's say route get to /about, comma, pages controller, class, and the method is about. All right, let's save it. Let's hop to our pages controller. Let's create a new method called about. And let's return a view called about. Let's save it. Let's create the about page in our views directory called about.blade.php. And let's copy our entire index page inside of our blade. All right, let's save it. And this is what I mean. You don't want to repeat yourself by adding the footer and the header inside the about page as well. So what do we need to do right here? Let's hop to the index page now. As you can see, everything inside the head and footer tags are redundant because we've got it inside the index page too. Now what we could do is to create a new directory inside our views where we are going to store redundant stuff like the header, the head, and footer. So let's create a new directory inside our views called layouts. And inside our layouts, let's create a new file called app.blade.php. If you have worked with PHP before, you usually had a footer.php, a head.php. It's a little bit different with Laravel. We could basically paste our entire page right here and remove everything that is actual content. And that content will be changed on every single page. One more time. The structure of our application will be inside the app.blade.php, but the actual content will be stored inside the index or about page. So let's do that. Let's get rid of everything above the footer until the header. Let's do that. So until the header. Let's get rid of it. Now in here, we could write down an @ sign followed by the keyword yield, parentheses. And yield is used to define a section in a layout, and it's constantly used to get content from a child page into a master page. So the app blade is our master page and the index page is the child page. We need to give our yield a name. So it's basically a section. So let's say in single quotes content. Let's hop to Google Chrome, refresh the page. And well, nothing is happening right here, because we need to do something with the content inside the index.php file. Alright, so let's hop to the index file. Instead of getting rid of the content, let's get rid of the footer. Alright, and let's get rid of the head and header. So right here. So we only want to have our actual content inside the index.blade.php file. The first thing that we need to do is to say that we want to extend the layouts.app file. So let's say add extends at the top of our page, parentheses, single quotes. Now right here, we need to write down the path to the app.blade from the views directory. So let's say layouts.app. Now we still haven't done anything with the content from the app.blade. So let's do that. Let's copy everything that is content for a second. All right, let's hit backspace. And right here, we need to wrap the entire content that is different on pages inside something which is called a section. Now, this section needs to receive a name, and it needs to be identical to the yield name that we have in our app.blade. So it needs to be content. So let's do that. Let's say single quotes content. A good thing to know is that you always need to close off your section. So right after a section, let's hit a couple enters, and let's say add and section. Now let's save it. Let's hop back to Google Chrome. Refresh the page, and as you can see, we only have our header, so our logo and menu items, and our footer. So what we could do right now is to place our actual content inside the section. Alright, let's save it. Let's hop back to Chrome, refresh it. Let's scroll up, and you can see that we have our content, so the body, we have our header, and we have our footer, but we have separated from each other. So let's rewind for a second. What did just happen here? So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. In our app.blade.php, which is basically the core HTML, we separated the header. So let's see, we separated the header, which is our navigation, and our footer from the actual content in our page. We have linked the actual content with a yield to a section called content. Then we went into our index.blade.php file and said, hey, extend everything that we have at the top from layouts.app and fill in the yield section with this actual content section. We can even go deeper than that. We could also separate the navigation with another method called include. So let's create a new file in our layouts directory called header.blade.php. And in here, let's store our entire navigation. So let's scroll up. All right, we have our header, but this is optional. You could either take your header tags or you could only copy the actual content inside of it. For now, let's only copy the nav. Oh, that went wrong. Oh my god. All right, let's copy it. Let's go back to the header.blade. Let's paste everything in here. Let's save it. And let's go back inside our app.blade. Let's get rid of the nav. And inside our header tags, we can use another tag called include. So let's say add include, parentheses. And inside the parentheses, we need to write down the path, which is layouts.header. Let's save it. Let's hop back to our Google Chrome, refresh it. You can see that our navigation is still here. So let's do the same thing for the footer. Let's create a new file called footer.blade.php. Let's go back to our app.blade. Let's copy the entire content inside of the footer. Let's say that we want to add include, in single quotes, a file called layouts, well, inside the layouts directory with a name called footer. Let's go inside our footer.blade and let's paste it right here. I actually forgot to copy the last div. Yeah, I did. Let's close it off. Excuse me. Let's save it. Let's go back to Google Chrome, refresh it, and our footer is still here.